Welcome to the Sportsfit Mum podcast, the place for expert knowledge and advice for your pregnancy and post-baby health and fitness journey. If we haven't met before, I'm Marnie, mum of two, health and fitness coach, international athlete and founder of the Sportsfit Mum community. Join us each and every week for lots of motivation and inspirational stories for you, the sport-playing, exercising, loving mum or mum. Hi Karen, welcome to the Sportsfit Mums podcast. I would like to welcome Karen Denwood, everybody, women's health physio. She's a pre and postnatal exercise specialist, a super-duper Pilates instructor. She's based down under, but originally from Liverpool, and the creator of the new Mummy Plan. It's so awesome to have you here, Karen.
Thank you so much for having me. Hello, everybody.
So we've been having lots of chats off air around everything women's health, and there's so many topics we can talk about, especially pre and postnatal. And I know from your message that you sent to me, you said pre and postnatal, totally my jam.
Absolutely.
Which I love. So let's start, and there's so much to talk about, but because series 1 of the Sportsfit Mums podcast is around fitness in pregnancy, let's start with the topic prevention.
Absolutely. And I am a firm believer that prevention is the key to most things. And we talked about, again, in our conversations prior to today, what should we focus on? And I think delving into postnatal is difficult without actually covering what we can do in the prenatal period. You know, the prenatal period lasts for so long, therefore there's a lot we can do. But I think in terms of prevention, we've got to think about more preparation. So what is it we're trying to prevent, which is what I focus on with people. You know, I think I don't kind of treat as I see, I treat what could be. Okay, you're pregnant and this can happen to a pregnant body. So let's prepare for that and let's try and prevent from a preparatory kind of focus. So, you know, the kind of things that we're trying to prevent. There's a high incidence of pelvic girdle pains, pelvic floor strain, and postural dysfunction. You know, as bump grows, we generally change in terms of our posture. There's increased strain on our abdominal muscles, birth itself. So we need to prepare and prevent for any injury that might occur during birth. Pelvic floor issues associated with pregnancy and birth, including incontinence, stress, and urge incontinence. And then obviously looking further down the line in terms of prolapse and issues that might arise kind of 10, 15, 20 years postnatal. So I like to look at things in a preparation perspective. How can we prepare our body for what lies ahead?
I love that. I definitely needed to change my banner to preparation in pregnancy.
I think people hear the word prevention and they kind of grasp onto that, or let's prevent. I don't want to prevent incontinence, but it's kind of the $1 million question is how do we prevent? And it is through preparation. The more prep we can do. You know, I listen to podcasts all the time, especially women's health podcasts, and more so recently, the whole pregnancy period is being referred to as a marathon. And I've kind of used that language before with my own clients, but from the respect of you don't just rock up on race day and just hope for the best. You know, it's that preparation. It's months and months and months of planning. And it's not just the physical, it's the mental, it's the nutritional. It's so much goes into it. And the thing, you know, you'll know this in terms of athleticism is our word. The thing with a marathon is the latter stages are the hardest. And that's where our body is going to go through the most amount of stress. And that counts in pregnancy as well. That's real for pregnancy as well. You know, we're heavier in the later stages of pregnancy. We've been under postural strain for a lot longer, and we're probably experiencing some pain, which can result in muscle inhibition, which can kind of just make our systems just a bit dysfunctional. And we're just kind of grasping onto in pregnancy to make ourselves stronger for that most demanding period.
Yeah, it's really ironic. I literally yesterday just recorded another podcast episode, which I think I called Why Labor is Not Like Running a Marathon. Because like you, I believe in the holistic journey in your pregnancy around your mindset, around your physical and emotional health as well. But actually being a strength and conditioning coach, I don't see it as a marathon, because a marathon, you move the same
for a long period of time and the intensity gradually increases, but there's no rest, you just keep going. Whereas labor's not like that. Labor, and I don't want to give away too much of my next episode, but my perspective is like a big CrossFit Games. It's like a high intensity event, you rest, high intensity, you rest. And if you love hypnobirthing like I do, you call it a surge. So, you're intense, you might move position, you recover, and you have to be training for labor. You have to be prepared for that. What are you mentally doing when you're resting? Are you freaking out? Or are you calming yourself, getting your recovery in, getting ready to go again? Because in a marathon, most people who want to run a marathon, not that I've ever run a marathon, half marathons the most I've ever done, once in my life, never again. But you're not going to stop and just go, I'm just going to rest here and I'm going to think about my next couple of Ks. You're just not going to do that. Like, you're just going to keep going. And that's not quite, in my perspective, what I found labor about. So
I think the pregnancy itself has links to that whole endurance that's required in terms of our muscles and our tissues is, over the length of your pregnancy. But labor, absolutely. I think labor is an event in itself that requires preparation. And that's why I focus a lot in terms of my prep with ladies there's a specific element just focused on preparation for birth. So we're in the latter stages of our marathon, like our bodies got us to this point, and now the big hurdle is the labor, and that requires different type of preparation. And often pregnancy is about getting strong, and then labor prep is a lot of downplaying that strength as well. So there's not a resistance to labor, because a lot of people, have this vision, and I think, I did with my first, and we'll go into that later. You think you've got to push this baby out, and the stronger you push and the more breath you can hold and the louder you can scream and grunt, the quicker this baby's going to come out. And it's absolutely the opposite. It's the more you can just switch your body off and let your body do its thing, the better. But that requires training. You need to train to down train your muscles, basically. The amount of people I see postnatal, or even like people don't come for an early pregnancy assessment, they come later when they're in pain, and you assess their pelvic floor and they're like this, they're on all the time, they're super tight and on. And it's the trying to educate that will become a resistance to your baby trying to get out, and we need to down train that to relax and switch off in a way. It's not your pelvic floor that's going to push your baby out. There's a reason we have contractions, and there's a reason they're bloody painful, and that's because there's a big fat muscle in there that's going to squeeze your baby out, and we need to provide as little resistance to that as possible, and that requires preparation and down training, which is such a big element that just doesn't get addressed, I don't think. And you can't find that information. How do I down train my pelvic floor for labor isn't really a topic that's spoken about outside of women's health. And that's thankful to a lot of research that's coming out of late. And a lot, there's UK women's health physios that are doing so much for women's health in general in terms of research and working alongside specialists and gynecologists and obstetricians and things like that. So that's fantastic. But there's definitely a lot of, in terms of the marathon, there's lots of different elements to that training for that event. And the event in itself being pregnancy as well. We can't just train for labor. We've got to train for those different stages of pregnancy, and we've got to start from basically those early stages and progressively get stronger. Most people, I think, get bigger in pregnancy and slow down and do a little bit less and put their feet up a bit more. And, we tend to just really slow down. And to be honest, we actually need to be matching the load. So we talk about in physio, there's this kind of concept of capacity and load. As we progress through pregnancy, our load increases. Therefore, our capacity's got to increase. Otherwise, we end up with pain. and, you know, ligament strain and muscle strain and diastasis, which is the separation of your abdominal muscles, and pelvic floor strain and pelvic floor lengthening and weakness. And so it's kind of changing the language that we use really in the education for people.
Yeah, 100% on board with all of that. It's funny because my 2 pregnancies were completely different. This audience will definitely understand where I'm coming from. First pregnancy, didn't want to stop playing sports, didn't want to stop exercising. And that did put me in really good shape for...
And that's because you didn't lower your capacity. You kept your capacity high. Absolutely.
Yes. And it's for another episode. But the postpartum journey was tough because I mentally didn't change my goals and high expectations, and I didn't understand my body. Second pregnancy, I struggled a lot more. I was bigger, baby was bigger, and I was running after another child, and I still didn't want to give up playing my sport and doing all that, but it was much harder. So therefore, although I felt like I was still loading, as you like to call it, I wasn't really. I was probably plateauing. And although the birth was fantastic, and I put that down to my mindset and hypnobirthing, definitely, my pregnancy wasn't as enjoyable. So knowing that our audience is, you know, our sport playing, exercise loving mums, can you give us a bit of a rundown around maybe what 2 or 3 preventative measures that a pregnant mum to be can do throughout their pregnancy?
So in pregnancy, it's never really recommended that you kind of take up a new activity, or you do quite a sedentary, low active lifestyle. Pregnancy isn't the time to start, you know, marathon training or going to the gym 3 times a week and start on CrossFit or anything like that. So you basically want to be realistic. So you want to definitely advise going and seeing a women's health physio, because the assessment for your pelvic floor is super important, because we need to know where your pelvic floor is in terms of that baseline. And majority of first-time pregnant to be mums have never even given their pelvic floor a thought. You know, we played sport through teenagers, early 20s. We cough, we laugh, we sneeze, we jump, we do all of those things. And it's a subconscious thing that it just works. And there's, you know, until it becomes an issue, or until you Google what should I do, or somebody tells you to do Kegels, you really don't know what your pelvic floor is and where it is and what it does. So a pelvic floor physio can really educate you in terms of where you're at. So I think as well, there's a fear with pregnancy of my pelvic floor, what's going to happen to my pelvic floor, and pushing this baby out, and is it going to stretch, and is it going to do this, and sometimes that means people do this. So they just pull everything in and hope for the best, and we can end up with a really restricted, hyperactive pelvic floor that doesn't really function very well, but is super tight. So that can cause its own issues in terms of continence and continence in pregnancy. And no, it's not okay to pee yourself in pregnancy. It's not the norm, and it shouldn't happen. But one of the reasons it can happen is that hypertonicity, hyperactivity, because you don't get pregnant and all of a sudden your pelvic floor becomes weak. You know, pelvic floor weakness generally happens as a result of 9 months of loading, gravitational loading on a pelvic floor. And dysfunction can often occur because we counteract that with hyperactivity. So we just overload our pelvic floor. We're just on a little bit too much of the time. It's super important to know. Yeah, and people in sport. I had a lady recently, a young girl, to be honest, who has only just become sexually active and was suffering a lot of pain. She's not thinking about babies just yet, but on pelvic floor assessment, she's like this. She's done dance and gymnastics and everything her whole life. Her posture is typical of a dancer and a gymnast. You know, she's all out of whack. Her muscles are imbalanced. They served a purpose in terms of her sport, but she's no longer doing that now. And she was struggling. So, yeah, the baseline assessment is super important. I'd say go there. That's your first port of call. And I really do think every pregnant woman should go and have at least one session with a pelvic floor or women's health physio, even if it's just to put a plan in place. And then it's just progressive. It's incorporating, so learning about how to activate your core and to activate your pelvic floor in isolation. And then once you can isolate your pelvic floor contraction, along with TA. So your TA is your transverse abdominis, which is one of your deep abdominal muscles that makes up or part of your core system, because our core is a system. It's not just a muscle. And to learn how to activate those and then know when you're activating them and to be able to progressively load. So Pilates is a good example of an exercise program where you focus on pelvic floor and core activation, and then we progressively load. And in Pilates, what should happen is once you can't kind of take that load, so once you can't control the load, you don't go any further. That's the level at which you work, or even you might regress a little bit and work on that coordination, function, and strength, and then you progress as you progressively are able to take on more load. And don't forget, we want these muscles to work appropriately to load. Like, we don't want a core activation or a pelvic floor activation which is 100% when we pick up a bag of shopping that weighs 2 kilos. We want it to actually respond subconsciously and appropriately, but we also want to strengthen with strength principles. So, going back to your strength and conditioning, we want to do sub-maximum contractions from a relaxed pelvic floor for 10 seconds, 10 times. So we want to apply strength principles, because as we progressively load through pregnancy, we need those pelvic floor muscles to strengthen and get stronger. Yeah, more load, more strength. Yeah. So speak to a women's health physio is definitely number one point, and then look into or ask that particular person, professional, about Pilates progressive loading and strengthening through pregnancy that's appropriate for your level. So you don't want to go and, join a high intensity advanced Pilates program if you've never done Pilates before. Yeah. But you might want to stay at that level. If you might change your direction in terms of your exercise. So for you, for example, being quite high level in sport, you might then go in at a high level of Pilates training, but it's just you've changed not necessarily the intensity, but just the focus.
Yeah. Okay, last question then. You have a sports loving client who is 20 weeks. They are still running great, feel great. They're going to tell you when it doesn't feel great, but anything that they can do preventative to, I guess, help make sure there's no issues down the line.
Absolutely. So you'd expect if they're already pre-pregnancy, that was their level of activity, you can pretty much assume that they were strong. Yeah. So their pelvic floor was functioning well because they weren't peeing when they were running, and they're not experiencing any symptoms at 20 weeks. So they're halfway through their pregnancy. I think definitely the focus on strength of the specific muscles. So running won't improve the strength of your pelvic floor. It might maintain it in terms of what it was pre-pregnancy, but even for that athlete who's at 20 weeks, her load has still gone up. So her capacity of those muscles still needs to gradually climb. So what I would say is also posturally, she's going to change. Yeah. So she's now a runner with probably in the majority an increase in anterior tilt. Mm-hmm. So she's going to be putting a bit more strain, or her abdominal muscles aren't going to be serving her as they would pre-pregnancy. So she needs to have a program that's going to address her postural changes. And because we can prevent postural changes, we just need to get stronger. We just need to train our muscles to withstand gravity and load. So say, for example, you want to hold your arm out against gravity, and after 30 seconds, it starts to hurt and you want to drop your arm. We can then train those muscles to become stronger so we can hold our arm for 4 minutes. Yeah, we can progressively strengthen those muscles. So you should definitely be undergoing a progressive core pelvic floor strengthening program, and postural changes should be addressed in terms of her strengthening abdominals to withstand that load, definitely. So even though you're fit prenatal and you maintain your fitness during pregnancy, there's still specifics that need to be addressed, definitely, because of pregnancy. Because you might be an athlete, but you've never been a pregnant athlete, and your body's changing. And hormones are a big game changer, and they got a lot of slack, I reckon. Hormones, they do take a lot. I think We hear the words unstable pelvis or instability, and we just need to be stronger. We just need a stronger system. Like every hormone, every change that happens in pregnancy serves a purpose and is welcome as far as I'm concerned. We just have to manage them. We just have to manage them and manage them progressively along the way.
Karen, that was awesome. Definitely. I mean, I could ask 101 more questions. I mean, there's so many nuggets I took away from that, but I just love the way you talked about, we're adding load, but we're not training the capacity of our core. Like that is gold. It's such a good thing to know and remember. And then the other thing is, you've been an athlete, but you've not been a pregnant athlete. And you have to, if you want to keep playing sport or doing all your workouts at the gym that you did before, and there's nothing wrong with that, but you do have to have, like you said, a progressive, definitely a core and pelvic health program, don't you?
Absolutely.
Love it.
That's the system that's going to serve you through pregnancy. So we need to nurture it and we need to really look after it. And don't forget, we're trying to prepare for the later stages of pregnancy and delivery and early postnatal recovery. So it's not just the load in pregnancy, it's what's going to happen. So if your muscles are stronger and more coordinated and have better tone and are able to relax, your delivery is going to go probably a bit easier for the majority. Obviously there's medical circumstances where it might not, but for the majority, a stronger core system that you can relax and work in delivery will lead to a better delivery, a quicker delivery, and then, will aid your recovery.
Yeah, awesome. So listeners, if you take anything from that is one of the top things you need to take away. And, a visit to the Women's Health Physio for sure. I'm conscious that my baby might wake soon that is in my arms. So, and I literally could talk forever. I think we'll touch base again when we get on to series 2 and we talk about postpartum. That would be amazing. Yeah, it'd be so good. But a part of our Sportsfit Mums podcast is to share motivation and inspirational stories. So I would love to hear, you don't need to leave out any gory bits, but I'd love to hear about your birth story and your return to sport.
So this is like hours worth of content, I tell you. Long story short, 12 years ago, pregnancy, pretty good. But I was the complete opposite to you from what you were saying before. I didn't continue training. I took my pregnancy pretty breezy. I worked pretty up until a couple of weeks until my due date. So I was active, but I did definitely reduce my activity levels. And later stages of pregnancy. So the last few weeks, circumstances at home, I was in the UK, it was snowing, couldn't go out for a walk. I was stuck on the top floor of a 3-story house while my husband tiled the downstairs while it was snowing outside. So I kind of kept myself locked away in the attic. I paid for it. And this is why I'm a women's health physio today. I absolutely paid for it. So my child decided that he didn't want to come. I went 2 weeks overdue, 15 days in fact, and then was induced. Nothing happened, and basically was popped onto my back and had a 27.5 induced labor with an epidural, instruments. Probably should have been a C-section in the end, but they pretty much decided didn't have time. Significant pelvic floor trauma, emotional trauma. He's sat here listening, so I don't want to scar him. So terrible recovery, pain, perineal trauma, terrible breastfeeding journey as a result of my pain, discomfort. He didn't put on weight. I had massive mum guilt. It was horrendous. And then kind of did the whole, give myself a little bit of time to heal, tried to go for a run, peed myself completely, cried, left it for another couple of weeks, tried again, went back to netball, peed myself, literally had to run to the toilet and splash myself with water and make out that the tap had gone crazy and soaked me, and was just like, this is crazy. So it was a good, I'd say 6 months before I felt ready. I was a physio at the time, I wasn't a women's health physio, but I was a physio. So I knew I had to do something. I knew I had to strengthen. My sport was netball and running, which, as most people will know, the running component from a mental health aspect. It was killing me not be able to run. So I started to get myself stronger. I decided I was never going to have another baby ever again. It was just so traumatic. And then kind of got myself back, had a prolapse, happened while I was out running one day. I was actually doing a race for life in Nottingham and had a prolapse. Continence was an issue, kind of never went away, but accepted it was part of the postpartum journey, even though it was probably 2.5 years into the postpartum journey. And then I kind of things started to improve and just probably got back to what I thought was my new norm. And then fast forward, came to Australia and really kind of the passion for women's health and the lack of knowledge and the lack of education and the lack, I just couldn't find, even as a physio, there was nothing I couldn't find. Even my colleagues, I was like, just check my muscles, do this. What about my separation? They were like, well, they're fine, I think. So once I was in Australia, I just kind of felt like this is an opportunity to go down a different path. I'm still musculoskeletal focused because I love my musculoskeletal physio, but I just really wanted to home in on that women's health component. And then absolutely loved it. And then really started my journey to get back to full strength. So we're talking 5 years later, 4 or 5 years later,
wow.
And postnatal really kind of opened my eyes to, I was so behind where I should have been. I had one of these pelvic floors that was doing this all the time because I was so scared of peeing myself, and I was so scared of walking around and, you know, being in pain with a prolapse. So I then decided that maybe 7 years later it was time to think about another baby. It had faded, and decided this time was going to be different. So got strong, ended up having a bigger baby, came a week early, waters broke, natural, like I was literally dancing around my kitchen, crying tears of joy that I was going into a natural labor. Rocked up a hospital with my Panadol in my hand and my TENS machine. I'm good. Can I take my Panadol? Took my Panadol out of my hand and said, let's just have a look at you, see where you're at. And I was 7.5 centimeters dilated.
Wow.
And I was absolutely, my husband was like, you're crazy. And obviously he had been there for round one and was like, this is amazing. And didn't scream, didn't make a noise, was so focused, breath work. Didn't have any drugs, had my TENS machine, didn't even get to have my Panadol. She took it off me, had my gas and air, and that was it. And then, my recovery, I loved it. I breastfed from the first minute. My placenta remained attached for about a good hour. It was unbelievable. And I just felt like, if I can do this, and it was through the preparation. Like I even prepped my nipples because breastfeeding had been so bad. I was flicking, I was twisting, I was roughing those babies up, you know, into this
prevention. Love it.
It was amazing, absolutely amazing. And my recovery was fantastic, to the point where my prolapse was probably better than it had ever been since that 5K run. It was better. I'm pretty sure I've still got a prolapse, but it's not symptomatic. So it doesn't cause any issues. I don't have to intervene in any way. Since then, I've done half marathons. I've done boot campy type training, your CrossFit type stuff. I've recently found my passion for weights and weight training, and no issues. I feel stronger now than I probably felt prior to my initial pregnancy. So 12 years ago. So it's preparation, prevention. And even treatment, you know, I treated what was left from previous successfully. So you can, with the right education, the right knowledge, the right programs, it's just fine to do. That's, I think, where my strong advocacy for women's health physios come in, because Google's a minefield. It's a black hole with so much information, and it just so needs to be specific to you and the individual. Yeah,
big time. And I think you've just summed up exactly, you know, my belief around knowledge is power.
Yeah, implementation is so important. Like, knowledge is fantastic, but without the implementation and the practical component of, this is a pelvic floor, this is how you contract it, this is what you don't want to do, I just think it's priceless. Yeah. Amazing. Karen, it's been awesome speaking to you. I definitely need to line up more.
because you've got a lot of knowledge to share with us. I like to finish each podcast with 2 of the same questions. So my first question to you is, what advice would you go back and give your non-mum self now that you know what you know?
Definitely don't take my body for granted. Don't just assume it's going to do, because it's been happening for thousands of years. It's still miraculous. It's amazing what our bodies go through. Like, women completely bow down to, especially people who have more than 2 children. Our bodies are absolutely fantastic. They're an amazing piece of technology. And just respect my body, nurture my pregnant bodies that were to come, and be kind. And it's a lot. Pregnancy, recovery, looking after a baby, trying to keep it together and be strong. It's a lot, and you just need to be kind to yourself. Absolutely. And just pat yourself on the back and give yourself credit and give yourself a break. Yeah.
I love that. I've been listening to Mel Robbins' audiobook, Give Yourself a High Five. There's a few little handprints going on in my mirror as the baby's crying. I'm like, give yourself a high five. You're doing well.
Absolutely.
And second question is, what's your favorite thing about being a mum?
I'm a big traditionalist. I love creating traditions with my family, like especially ones that have been passed down, from my grandparents to my parents. And, we're big pajama people, matching pajamas at every occasion, but also just experiences and making memories. Like our goal is to go away at least once a month. So whether that's be in a hotel, go out in the caravan, just a weekend break somewhere, but just a big experience at least once a month. In winter, summer, spring, throughout the year. So we kind of really push for adventures, experience, and memories.
So good. I wish we were neighbours. The only tradition you can't keep is a white Christmas.
Yes. Although I did buy a snow machine.
Did you?
And we had a snow machine for Christmas. Yeah. So I did keep that tradition. And we did snow angels and all the rest of it. So
when I first moved over to the UK, we whacked up the heating in the house and wore our boardies and our thongs, and we were like, we got a hot Christmas, no worries.
Absolutely. I recently did a Pilates event at a winery, and I got the snow. It was a Christmas party, and I got the snow machine out, and they were like, "You're such a pom."
I love it. Karen, I can hear the passion for your advocacy for women's health and wanting to help women in all stages, whether it be pregnancy, birth, and their postpartum journey. So how can people work with you and find out a little bit more about the Mummy Plan?
I would generally just send people over to my Instagram page. That's where it's all going to be happening. Lots of things happening over the next few months, including the launch of the Mummy Plan, the pathway, the steps. Eventually will be available online, so you can do this program from wherever you are in the world, and that's my goal. Generally, I would just direct people over to my Instagram or the website. That will be updated soon, including all the Mummy Plan details. But Instagram's probably the place to be. There's going to be freebies, handouts, pelvic floor workbooks, all of that kind of thing showing up. So maybe just keep checking in over the next few months. And absolutely.
I'll put them in the show notes, but it's at Karen Denwood Physio, is that right?
Yeah, Karen Denwood Physio. Yeah.
Perfect. Karen, it's awesome. Thank you so much for your time today. And we'll welcome you back for series 2.
Yes, awesome. That would be amazing. Thank you so much.
Catch you all in the next episode. Thank you for listening to another episode of the Sportsfit Mums podcast. It's awesome to have you along. If you would like to join our community, follow us on at Sportsfit Mums on Instagram. Alternatively, do check out the subscription notes, as you will see a link to our Ultimate Fitness in Pregnancy mini guide. From here, you'll also get some details of the up and coming release of the new strength